Welcome. We're really excited to host this panel session today. Make more money, which I think, show of hands, who in the audience is interested in making more money? Love that. Good. Add more solutions to every installation. I'm Cynthia Mena, your moderator. I'll go do a quick introduction when I introduce a panel as well. But ultimately, the goal of this session is to kind of illustrate some of the opportunities, especially around RMR in the security space. How you get stickier with customers, and really stickier means more loyal customers. When we look at studies, it costs more money to actually get a new customer than it is to keep a customer, right? So really important that we have the opportunity to build leverage within our customer base, create stickier customers. And what RMR also allows folks to do on a monthly basis is have a regular touch and connection point with the customers as well. Whether that's through security monitoring, selling service packages and service plans, it does give the opportunity to, again, connect with your customer, cross-sell and upsell. So I'll be really curious to hear from our panelists, who are really thought leaders. They're your peers, they're your colleagues in the space, about how they've been successful in adding RMR and adding more solutions into their day-to-day sales. With that in mind, I'm Cynthia Mena. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of AV for ADI Global. We're sponsoring this particular panel session today. For those of you that don't know anything about ADI, we are globally the largest security distributor, so we know a lot about security. And certainly welcome you to stop by the booth after the session to kind of walk through our portfolio of brands and solutions. Well, let's get into the more fun stuff, which is our peers and the folks that came and joined us today. So thank you all for taking the time out of your busy show. And I've got to say, the show's been phenomenal. Just seeing the amount of people walking around, being able to connect with people this year is a real treat for all of us. So I'm going to hand it off to Henry. I'll let you introduce the rest of the crew as well. So thanks, Henry.
Good morning. Thank you, Cynthia. Really honored to be here. Good morning, everybody. My name is Henry Clifford. I'm with Livewire in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm an integrator, just like most of you in the audience. Had a company in Richmond for about 20 years, and I'm just fired up to be here and talk about profitability. And with that, I'm going to bump it over to my buddy Mitch here.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here too. My name is Mitch Mitchell, and I'm with New Wave Systems right down in Raleigh. Been with them for 4.5 years. Before that, I worked in the commercial security space with a local company in Raleigh for 15 years, and really have a lot of passion for the subject today. So I'm really happy to be here and glad we were invited. So I'll pass. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle Chestnut. I'm with NICE, which was formerly Nortec Control until Wednesday of this week, where we kind of sunset the Nortec name, and now we're NICE. So you could talk to us now that we're NICE, so you should come into our booth. I actually I'm a manager of builder services, so I consistently work with builders, trying to get them to adopt using smart home technology in their new construction. And before that, I actually was the VP of operations for a large security company that was national, and we basically built it from the ground up with no acquisitions, mergers, and built it to 30,000 customers and 1.8 million in recurring revenue. So I'm really excited to talk today about security. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Watkins. I'm with Residio and Honeywell Home. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 26 years. I've really spent the 26 years in the security space. I've been on the dealer side, and I've been with Residio for 18 years now. Moving away from the security in the last month to really focus my energies and efforts within the residential new construction space of making sure that the builders and the homeowners can experience a secure, comfortable environment in all of the new homes that they build and that they live in. So I'm excited to be here and share hopefully some valuable insight with all of you. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lorette. I am a Pro AV Regional Manager for ADI Global. My background is predominantly structured cable and AV. I have been a security dabbler in a previous life, and I've worked across both the residential and commercial sites. So excited to be here. Looks like a wonderful group.
It is a great group. Can you all hear me? Okay, I'll hold it closer to my face. I wanted to sit down and chit chat with these guys a little bit closer, so I won't have to stand at the podium and get all the background noise. I think it's interesting amongst the panelists. Very similar backgrounds. Myself, I came out of the home automation, residential space, moved into the commercial space, and obviously have similar backgrounds. We probably share many same connections, which is great. I think the one thing that Henry did was not change his name, so he wasn't part of the M crew that we had today with Mitch, Michelle, and Mike, but we'll forgive him this time. But I'll start actually my first question with you, Henry, around your decision to begin offering and integrating security into your installations. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd like to say that it was the result of a long and very well thought out strategic planning process. However, we were pulled kicking and screaming into doing security initially. It scared us to death. Initially, this is maybe 20 years ago or so, we'd referred out security installations to a security dealer in the market, and we really had no grasp of the power of recurring monthly revenue, because I cry every time I say that right now. And one of our builders mandated that we bring it in-house, and so we were forced to do it. The first house installation came, and I was petrified. What if the house burns down and it's on our watch? What if somebody breaks into the house and something happens? It's all going to be on us, and this fear was just absolutely paralytic. So, first house comes and goes, nothing bad happens. All the TVs and stuff go haywire, but the security system's just fine. Turns out that security is actually a pretty peaceful, awesome, highly profitable business. And then we did one system, one account, then two, then three, then four, and so on. So that was the beginning. So we were forced into it, but the rest of the journey is history, as they say.
So it sounds like a really crawl, walk, run approach to it, which I think is a smart way to go about a new initiative. So good. And no houses have burned down yet?
No house. You know what? I don't want to jinx it, right? Let's not jinx it. Yeah.
All right, there you go. All right.
We're good.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll go on to Mitch. Thank you. Share details of how you've had success incorporating new RMR opportunities into your business.
Sure. 4.5 years ago when we came on board, we did a lot of security, but it was nothing was under contract. Everything was a handshake. We do a lot of builder business, and so we had all the wires there, and we were good at security, but we didn't take it seriously. So we're asking a lot of our AV technicians to also double as security technicians, and so 4.5 years ago, we recognized that. We've started to bring contracts on board. We offer 1 to 3 year agreements. We've had a lot of success there. We have dedicated security staff, not only in the office, but also in the field, and all they do is security systems. So we've kind of streamlined our product offerings. So we're not trying to be everything to everybody, but we do have a couple of very specific products we bring to market, and have had a lot of success doing that. Mainly through the builder market and the pre-wires that we already are in the house doing.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Mitch. We're going to move on to Michelle. What are some of the most recent trends that you're seeing with homeowners in choosing to integrate security?
So it's interesting because I feel like originally, or maybe some years back, it kind of started with security, and then you were able to add on some home automation, right? And I feel like it's kind of flipped now. It's really where the demand is really in the automation pieces, whether it's people just want a video doorbell or they want a smart thermostat. So I feel like or lighting now, lighting is becoming so big, right? So with that demand, I feel like now it's easier once you're in the home already and individuals are wanting these items to really wanting to tack on the security piece with it. And a lot of times, in order for all of those things to work together, they need a panel of some sort anyways, right? To have a one-app solution, which is better, more user-friendly for the end user. So I really think it's been easier to tack on security based on that. And then in the builder worlds, you know, a smart home is really one of the... Right now, it's like everybody's ears are just spiked when you talk about a healthy home,
Yes.
right? So being able to manage air quality, water leak detection, things like that. So I really think it all goes hand in hand. Like we said, it's just, you know, adding the solutions on to each install. And I never want to forget what's really the part of security is people are really interested in protecting the two most important things to them, and it's their family and their home. So, yep.
Okay, good, thanks. I agree 100%. Moving on to Mike. What's the most common area of security you've seen the CEDIA channel incorporate into their offering?
So I'd say at Residio, we're seeing two key trends come out of this. We're seeing cloud integrations, number one, driving the space. And then we're seeing a very wide array of robust new offerings in this space. So first, if I say cloud integrations, traditionally when we looked at homes in the past and we looked at the smart home, we looked at integrations, we looked at security, it was a cumbersome, it was a complicated integration. It required many hours on the job sites, it required pulling wires from this device to this device, and it was extremely complicated. And it may not deliver all of those things that those homeowners are looking for when we're doing that integration. So today, with the cloud integrations, we're able to pull in a wide variety of devices, such as Brilliant being a cloud integration that Residio has recently partnered with. And doing that cloud integration, we're able to bring in security and home automation and all of those other IoT devices that homeowners want to experience and live with daily. It could be something as simple as their comfort with their thermostat and a cloud integration into their security and into their smart system, something like a water leak detector. And then that takes us to number two when we look at the more robust offering. It leads right into that. When we talk about a robust offering, we're now seeing the likes of video doorbells, connected thermostats, multiple connected thermostats on multiple floors of the home. We're seeing things, outdoor cameras, indoor cameras, lighting controls, whole house water shutoff, just such a wide variety of things. Typically those things weren't commonplace in a home because it's how do we tie all of that in? Now that we have all of these offerings, we have the cloud to go along with it. It's so simple and it's becoming the new expectation, not the, well, that's a $75, $80, $100,000 solution. We're bringing this all down to the level to where every single homeowner and builder can have a very strong, robust offering that's safe and secure and connected and that consumers really like to live with on a daily basis.
Great. Yeah, I'm thinking, from a theme perspective with you and Michelle, that kind of smart home, connected home concept, and everyone's looking for sort of a central point. I think when you're thinking about that as an audience, being that one-stop shop to that customer, as we went back to adding more solutions, being stickier with the customer, really being able to tie the entire kind of infrastructure and ecosystem of the home together on a common platform, and then tie that to service, right? Tie that to the RMR platform, tie that to a recurring revenue platform. Again, that allows your business to scale is really important. So I appreciate that. Great. Michelle.
Hi.
Michelle too, I should say.
It's all about me.
That's right. What security or RMR solutions have you seen dealers in your history and your experience been most successful with?
Well, it's interesting. So I'm old enough that I downloaded music off the internet through Napster and didn't realize I was actually pirating music illegally. And I hear Mike talk about the cloud coming from cabling. I know that's really just a data center, y'all. So the dirty little secret that AV people, less so, I would say, on the residential side, the pro people, they're a little bit slower on the snap, is that monitoring. They've been monitoring forever, right? So they understand monitoring. Before, I think monitoring in the security world was more of that trigger to let the police department know that there's been a breach, right, of a security system installed and send the appropriate help. But since that time, The small stretch is that it's all about video transport, which AV people are experts on, video storage, video transport. We know how to hang cameras. We know about camera angles, right? But because we can leverage the cloud, and they have the Internet of Things, which is anything that's connected to the internet, whether it be your Apple TV, whether it be your thermostat, your doorbell, your security cameras. What's nice is I've seen so much more success both on the commercial and the residential side with our AV dealers that get into security. They leverage a software platform that we have that not only allows them to monitor everything for their customers, the thermostat, the doorbell, the TVs. It allows them to push out firmware updates. It allows them to power cycle TVs. It allows them to get annoyed at people at the booth next to our stage. No, it doesn't do that. But they're able to do that. They're able to even monitor their bandwidth, right? Because as security and AV professionals, we're always guilty until we're proven innocent. We have to prove it's not us. So why isn't this Control 4 touch panel working? The Control 4 is not working. Well, it's actually your Comcast. It's your service provider. It's not us that's causing everything to bog down. You can set up critical alerts so the things that matter most to the small, medium-sized business, the large business you're working with, the multi-dwelling unit, the residential home, the CEO's home office, whatever is important to the client, you can set up alerts so that you now get to be proactive. In addition to being proactive, instead of always having our AV hair on fire, we now get alerts, and instead of automatically making a truck roll to go figure it out, we can diagnose where the pain point is. So we've got a failure, what's the failure? Now when that truck does roll, we can go ahead and have the gear on board. Or we could stop by our local ADI branch and pick it up so that when he gets there, he has the right gear so that he can remove that pain, he can have more uptime of the system, a more Disney-like experience for the customer, and just be more mission critical and develop more loyalty and the stickiness that Cynthia, because a great customer experience is what really drives that. The loyalty, the stickiness, them not wanting to leave you, them knowing how indispensable you are, because I know how indispensable you are. Sometimes they don't see that. So it also just saves you money. We know our technicians never go out by themselves. They always got to have a sidekick. So that's 2 guys. That's, you know, windshield time that's not necessarily billable. We need to make them more efficient. We don't make the margins we used to make on hardware. We make our money off of the labor side of the equation and through platforms like our Capture platform. Yes, it is a shameless plug, but it's a great platform. It's been around for over a year. It's several years old. It's very robust. It keeps getting better, and that's where I've seen the most impact. And other services like cybersecurity, that we have other people do it for you from a third party. So they do the heavy lifting, but you get to add that to your recurring revenue model. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Michelle. I did actually want to do a show of hands because I walked in, some of the crowd. I wanted to see how many folks are already doing security and selling RMR tied to it. Okay. What about whole house monitoring? Quick show of hands. Okay, good. So I'm going to open it up to questions to the audience. And I've actually, before we jump into that, I had a couple questions for this team. I think specifically to Henry and Mitch. What were some of the lessons that you learned, I guess, as you got into the security space? And if you were to give some advice, to an audience like this, who's, might have some questions about getting into whether it's security installation or just selling, service plans and packages, what kind of advice and what lessons have you learned along the way?
One of our big aha moments was really around what the customer values most, or what their most precious resource is. And really to piggyback on Michelle's sort of conversation around monitoring, if we can all agree that time is that most precious resource, then anything we can do to save the client time becomes tremendously valuable to the customer. And in addition to that, transferring risk. if they can throw money at a problem and transfer risk, that's a winner all day long. It took us a long time to really figure that out, and we were guilty of selling probably out of our own back pockets, or judging things through the lens of what we would pay or what we would do, when, it's a completely different audience set. So it really took us sitting down and defining who our customer was, putting a persona to it, a name, etc., to where it allowed us to get to the point where we were standardizing security on every single builder relationship, for example, or standardizing 24/7 remote support with every single Livewire system, because it's transferring risk and it's oriented at that pain point of saving time. So that aha moment, if I can save anybody time of frustration with that little share, I'll feel good about today.
Thank you. One of the things that has really helped us is that when people call in, especially about their security problem, they're having a door, they can't set their system, we have dedicated staff. Anybody in our company really can open up the system, see what's going on there, and can solve the problem either by bypassing a zone or whatever it needs to be. So we can handle things quickly, and that's the expectation, I would say, in security, is that, somebody calls in and their fourth television's Apple TV's not coming on, that's one thing. If they can't arm their system tonight, that's a completely different thing. So it is a little different mindset, and we've trained everybody in our organization to be able to quickly tell a customer in just a couple of minutes exactly what's going on. Yes, I see exactly what's going on with your system. I see that your front door is not setting up. We can go ahead and bypass that zone. We'll see you tomorrow with the truck roll, but in the meantime, go ahead and feel free to use your system. So that was one of the things that kind of surprised me, is that there is an expectation of very quick turnaround when their security system's not working. It's a little different than AV, so I would make that point.
That's fair enough. So prioritization on the safety side, I fully appreciate that. And I guess when we talk about just adding those automatics on, right? You're adding on the monitoring, you're adding on the remote access, etc. When you look at from the customer's perspective, and I think as we look at our business, it's always customer one. So start with the customer and work backwards. And you said you kind of got in your own way, but just for fear of what you thought was the best price to charge. Or what you thought the expectations were in the marketplace. I think what I've seen in my experience is that it's taken a while for our industry, whether on the resi side or the pro side, to get comfortable with selling service contracts and driving value to that, and being able to kind of push that. We still a lot of conversations around what SLAs look like and creating that expectation, not just for your own business. So when you talk about that contract piece of it from a business persona, how did you approach building services, and how did you look at your own business to say, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm selling you this package, we will agree to XYZ, SLA, etc. And did you struggle with that, and how did you kind of overcome that?
So how many, show of hands, how many have relationships with builders in the audience? Just raise them up. Yeah. So those of you who have these builder relationships, the kiss of death is when the builder says, okay, yeah, we'll put that on the options sheet, right? What we really want is we want standardization. We want a hook. We want a standard into every single home. Services is no different. Although in this case, the audience is the sales team. Maybe it's you, or maybe it's a group of individuals in your organization, but there's got to be buy-in. So if you make it optional, it's going to stay optional, and there's not going to be this sort of cultural embracing. And so one way that we sort of burned the ships is said, if it's a builder job, it comes with a security panel and a standard package every single time. And then the sales team can then step it up from there. So it's not a matter of what's your attachment. Our attachment rate's 100%. How many are stepping up, and those salespeople are then earning more as a result. But it's sort of a cognitive shift. But we spent years, I'd say, fighting City Hall around that, trying to change behavior with the world as an option. And the same thing with the 24/7 remote support. It's just part of our service delivery. It's just, this is the Livewire way. Same thing with your organization. It's just a cultural thing. But again, big cognitive shift. So that, to answer, I guess the question was, we had to sort of burn the ships and make it a standard and hope that that didn't blow up the building.
Any other thoughts around, and I guess, Michelle, from not that Michelle, this Michelle in the middle, from a security perspective, and given your background, in building service contracts, and you said you took a business and really boomed it, right? Very organically. What was your experience, again, from a service perspective, adding it on, tacking on, creating SLAs, creating an expectation with the customer that you could meet and growing into it?
So honestly, service was something that we were really bad at as far as charging for it. And we never really could understand why. Like, we're providing a service, we're rolling a truck. Why is it that when the customer has such an issue with it, we were always so quick to say, okay, we'll do it at no charge this time then, right? So we were just always so losing in that category. And actually, in my experience with that company, we never really I never saw it get better. However, working at NICE and getting the opportunity to work with so many different integrators, I've seen companies who do it so well. Their time is valuable. I feel like it's all in it's just about the contract. It's got to be in writing, and it's got to be set forth and put exactly what it is, whether there's trip charges, whether it's hourly labor fees. As long as I feel like everyone is transparent. And like I said, I've seen companies who their service department is the biggest moneymaker in the business, right? So, and then I've seen other ones who are a very small regional integrator who is so confident in his technicians and their installs, and that he does all zero service fee, right? So this is a tough one for me because I feel like I've seen so much success in different organizations, and they do it very different. So I think you have to identify, as a business, what you're really good at, how you want to present to do service, and I think it's got to be transparent in the contract always. I'm a big contract person. Everything in writing. Yeah.
Good.
It's interesting. We have the National Systems Contractor Association, and they do a really good job of coaching integrators how to add certain verbiage, whether it's verbiage protecting you from supply chain shortages, cost increases, things like that. Ironically, back to his point, it does have to be a cultural thing. When I first went to work in integration back in 2010, I was an AV idiot. So I knew time and material from cabling. I didn't understand the programming, the engineering, the commissioning. I had a lot to learn. And at some point during that first year and only year journey in integration, because what y'all do is hard, and I want an easier life. I'm getting old. They had said to us, well, you need to offer a service contract every time you deliver a proposal. But me being me, they didn't really sell me on why we needed to deliver that contract, and I already thought everything was so expensive. Why is it so expensive? So much cheaper at Fry's and Costco, because once again, I was not an AV professional, so I have my own inherent bias. And at some point, they just said, no, it is mandatory. You have to, it's for our best good, because a lot of times we don't have the luxury of set it and forget it, correct? There's going to be rolling brownouts, power surges, lightning strikes. Things are going to go wrong. There has to be a truck roll. The customer's not going to be happy. It's time, it's material, it's customer dissatisfaction. We don't have, 7 nines of uptime. That's what everybody wants. And I think that by doing the remote monitoring, having those service contracts, enjoying the benefit of the recurring revenue that helps smooth out the peaks and valleys of the actual physical installs. It's just something that makes sense.
You mentioned some industry resources. I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit from a resource perspective around, training, licensing, resources that people can leverage. I'll kind of open up to everyone, what are, maybe start with licensing and certification, because that obviously varies a bit from state to state, or maybe even city to city in some areas, but also just around training and getting your staff and teams up to speed. So maybe share with the audience some of pitfalls, opportunities, resources, et cetera, around that?
Yeah, so some of this is the Wild West, and some of it is very prescriptive. Start with the easy one, the prescriptive one. Electronic security, depending on the state that you're in, can tend to follow a fairly prescriptive path. Your state's ESA, your local ADI branch, right? These are all great resources for sort of that pathway. But usually it's a pretty well-worn track, right? 100-plus-year-old industry, you're gonna find good resources. On the 24/7 remote support side, and Michelle, refresh me again, the name of the platform you mentioned?
National System Contractor.
No, there was
Association.
another one. Capture, was it?
Capture.
Okay.
Capture is that monitoring
Fine.
that we offer.
It can be super intimidating as you're contemplating getting into this. So there's sort of do it yourself, and this is the sort of Wild West. There are programs like Capture. There's programs like One Vision is here at the show. Parasol. These are all managed service provider platforms. So just decide, right? Are you going to do it yourself? If you tap into one of these platforms, they have resources, tools, a complete Candyland roadmap that'll take you from day 1 to day 365 and sort of help you sort of avoid the blood on the tracks and get you up and running quickly. So you don't have to do this alone, but just know that it's a newer category. And so it's a little harder to sort of go out there and wildcat and strike oil, and it can tend to be a little frustrating. So might want to consider, partnering with, somebody like a Capture, a One Vision, a Parasol, et cetera, just to kind of get going. By the way, any of these resources that you guys end up wanting, we have a ton just from Livewire's efforts at this. And if you want, find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. You can have anything we've built. No problem.
So at Residio, one of the things we do is we put a big emphasis on education. We understand that the success of the security installer is ultimately going to trickle down to the function of that home and the comfort of that homeowner. So one of the things that we do at Residio is we have an entirely dedicated training team that we disperse across the entire U.S. We do live in-person trainings with our partner at ADI. We'll go into the ADIs. We'll host training sessions there. We want to make sure that if it's something as simple as how do I start with a door contact to how do I integrate this cloud to that cloud with the Residio smart system, with a brilliant smart system, and pull in this water leak sensor, how do I do that to serve this new construction space, or how do I serve the home in that fashion? We have a very robust training, and we're pretty, I'll say, proud of it. At the same time, we know that having your technicians out of the field is a big cost to your business. So that's the last thing we want to do, is be disruptive to your business. But at the same time, a trained technician is a more efficient technician and delivers a better service for that consumer and spends less time in their home disrupting their life. So ultimately, we want to make sure we're not disrupting the consumer's life. We want to make sure that your business continues to run efficient. So how can we train you and get you up to speed as quick as possible? So if you don't want to bring your technician into an ADI for a training, or you don't want to have us into your office for a training, we offer remote session webinars that involve live trainers that can be done any time of the day. We offer pre-recorded training sessions, and these training sessions are, how do I program a panel? We even go as far as basic networking. A lot of new people coming into this space, a lot of new entrants that are going to the home and pulling wires and making connections. Do they know the difference between 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz and which products attaches to what? Maybe not. I don't sell 2.4 gigahertz as an item, but I sell a lot of stuff that connects to it, and I sell a lot of stuff that connects to 5, and you have to go put that in a home. How do we understand what that network means and how our products are going to work with it, so your technicians are in and out and efficient and do the job right the first time, so that your homeowner ultimately turns around and says, wow, I worked with Henry, and Henry's company was awesome. You need to use Henry for your house that you're building. That's what we want to create, and so we have to help their businesses come along this journey, and we have to provide feature-rich training sources for that.
It's been my experience that the residential AV integrators are actually much better at the networking side of the equation than the commercial ones, because you literally build their network 9 times out of 10, including the wireless access points and everything else. Whereas in the pro world, nobody's going to let us touch their network. We have to beg them for a VLAN. But what's interesting is, I had this question posed the other day. I was explaining that I work with a lot of our residential AV installers that they want to get into kind of the resi-mercial market, as I coin it, maybe sports bars, small businesses, things like that, and that we offer design assistance. We have engineers that design. And I was explaining, if you need overflow, we have that design assistance, some of the best and brightest in AV up in Louisville, Kentucky. And he says, well, do y'all offer that for security too? And I was like, I don't know, I'm on the AV side, let me ask. So I asked one of my coworkers, and he holds up a magazine over Teams with a big ADI ad, and he's like, yes, Michelle, we do that on the security side too. I was like, oh, all right, good to know. I'll let that AV integrator know. And I am a little biased, but we do have ADI University. That's available online 24/7. It's going to be strongest in the security vertical, but it also has a lot of great residential AV. We're adding a lot of great pro AV content. It's a living body, a living document, if you will. So it's constantly getting better week over week, month over month, year over year, as we add stuff to that. And our training people are really dedicated, and they're trying to bring as much good resources to our partners as possible.
Yes, I think it's pretty evident. There's a lot of, whether it's peer-to-peer, so I think it's awesome that you kind of threw yourself out there as, hey, let me give you some advice, lean on asking questions. And I think we shouldn't be scared to ask our supplier partners, our colleagues in the industry, where you've seen success, for help, what's got them, kind of across the finish line. I saw the two of you talking. I mean, in some ways, different states, but two different companies, and probably sharing best practices and talking about what y'all do and what made you successful. I think it's really important, from an industry perspective, to kind of build ourselves up. And I think from a technician perspective, that training, and you said it really well, Mike. I mean, a trained technician is a more efficient technician, right? And how you can build bench strength within your business and give them an opportunity to kind of grow within the business, and give them sort of your technicians, yourselves, a path to grow and better and improve your kind of forward-looking. So talking about training with your technicians and your staff, what's your approach to training? What's your approach to education? I mean, obviously time is money, so.
So going back 7-8 years, I actually called CEDIA and I said, hey, I need the roadmap for the first year of a new tech's life. And they said, we don't have that. And I said, well, that's frustrating. I would have thought maybe my trade association would have something like that. So we ended up hiring and paying a lot of money and building out something we called Livewire University that year. And the premise was, again, just creating a very simple Candyland board, Monopoly board, where it's like day 1, day 2, day 365. And that grew. So now basically every tech who starts with us is going through a online university, an in-person training. And we actually were able to then work with our buying group, ProSource, and spread that as a resource for the entire group. So the approach that we took eventually became an online university and an in-person training academy at our facility, which is really cool. But as a resource, whether it's ProSource or some of the other buying groups or ADI, et cetera, there's a ton of these roadmaps now that weren't available back in 2015. CEDIA's got great content. But back to the comment about making it cultural earlier, it's sort of the mindset of like, well, what if we train our employees and they leave versus what if we don't and they stay? So for us, it's very much built into, we know it takes 4 months for somebody to become billable. We don't just throw them in the field. We just bleed cash like a stuck pig for 4 months. And that's just, we bake it in. And that flows back into strategic planning, back into how we price. Again, it's a cultural shift. And again, that's just what we're doing.
One of the things that we do is we have dedicated field guys who that train and release guys to the field who can do stuff on their own. So in addition to the manufacturers, ProSource, you mentioned that. I know ADI has programs where you can start and finish and at least get them to a certain place to where they know what's going on in the field. Most of our stuff happens in the field as far as training. We've got guys that are 15, 16 years seniors and are able to confirm and verify that they're doing the right things in the field and with the customers, with the products.
Great. So I want to kind of shift gears a bit and somewhat tied to monitoring and RMR, et cetera. But we see a big trend in DIY and do it for me. And obviously, homeowners have the ability to shop. They have other choices as well. Let's talk a little bit about the DIY, do-it-for-me kind of platforms and how, as an industry, we can help support those homeowners, right? Because they're still looking for technical support. They still need help to some degree with installation support. I'll open up, maybe Michelle and Mike, you can comment on that.
So that's an interesting approach there when we look at the DIY and do-it-for-me approach. We sell through the professional channel. We value that professional channel. I think there was a moment in time where DIY really became a threat to all of us on this stage here and all of you out there in that audience. We saw the DIY market start to dwindle a little bit because of this thing called cloud integrations, all of these different solutions out there. And you probably found, consumers may call you and say, hey, I've done this, I can't make it work. Can you come and fix it for me?
Exactly.
And so many of you and you guys probably became that company and said, how do we handle this? Consumers are seeing that. Consumers are, I think, shifting back to, well, I want to go with that pro model. I want to go with the companies that understand what they're really doing. I know my neighbor tried this and it fell apart. They returned it all back to that retail box store. And then they called, and so they had to spend the money twice. They had to disrupt their house twice. So I would say there's certainly a DIY space out there, but there's a space for every single one of you and every single home to be their coach, to be their guide, to be their consultant. And I'm not convinced that DIY is the end-all be-all of the consumer space. I think it really sits in all of the trades that are in this building today.
Could I offer a piggyback on that?
Sure, please, yeah.
Look behind you, right there. Look up. What do you see right there? What's that blue ring right there? It says Ring, right? That's a DIY brand, right? They have stuff in our pro channel. They're here at the show. They are spending money at the show. They are spending money in our industry. What are they doing? They're raising consumer awareness. They are like a marketing department we wish we could have. You guys do that Ring thing, you do, and you can take that conversation and pivot it, man. Completely pivot that conversation into, oh yeah, let's have a conversation. It's a conversation starter. And so I see a lot of my brothers and sisters in the industry looking at a sort of a Superman Lex Luthor kind of dynamic where there's just, if we understand who our customer is, back to your point, we understand who our customer is, then we know, somebody's buying the 3 Series, somebody's buying the 5 Series, it's okay. There's plenty of it out there for everybody. We just have to understand what kind of fish we want to catch and then go fishing there.
I'll actually just chime in. I agree that the DIY world has brought a lot of awareness to consumers, and I think ultimately it is a good thing for us. I think it's important for manufacturers also to play well with some of those, right? So if Google Home is super important to a customer, then it's kind of our job to figure out how to help them use it still and create the professionally installed with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that opportunity when that homeowner picks up the phone and calls, Henry or Mitch, there's still that add-on, there's still that value that you can drive through services, support, again, upselling and cross-selling, to, again, make what maybe was outside of your control, bring it back in, rein it back in, and keep a customer, again, and create a new customer in a whole cycle with them. So a really little bit controversial of a question, I think, because DIY, I think, to your point, Mike, was a bit scary for folks and like, oh my gosh, they can do it on their own. But in reality, there's a huge reliance and a great opportunity for everyone in this audience to really take advantage of, with that audience as well. And it might be a different sale, it might be a different approach that customer, right? But they ultimately do need support and installation support. And again, longer term monitoring solutions as well. So I'm going to open it up real quick to the audience for any questions. Anyone have any questions they want to pose to our panelists here? Take advantage of their time. Anyone? You have a question? No? Okay. Quiet crowd. Even some of my coworkers, you don't want to like toss up a volley or anything. Oh, Mr. Maston, I know this guy. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got a big mouth and I'm not afraid to use it. My question is really for Mike, but it ties in with Henry and Mitch. I've seen a lot of new home construction lately, and something as simple as an electrical outlet still using an old USB plug on a brand new installation. How are you helping the builders keep up with the newest technology? Because it's not moving like a turtle, it's moving at warp speed, and somebody that was in the business for decades is offensive to me. So my question is really, how do you continue to let your builders know that that generation or that ship has passed and we've got to move to something newer?
Yeah, so I would start with, in my conversations with builders, I am absolutely stunned and amazed at how educated they are on the space, of understanding they do intense market research and really understanding who their buyers are, what their buyers want, what are the trends in the homes, what do they need to do, how do they need to stay competitive. So the builders are extremely knowledgeable. I will say this at the same time, there is a extreme appetite from what we've seen at Residio in that builder space to really advance their homes and get into this smart home technology. They're seeing this and they know this is extremely important. That's where many of the conversations tend to go. They understand and they see things that Residio is doing, like our partnership with Brilliant, and their eyes just light up and they're like, wow, I can really bring something like this to the masses. This goes in that light switch spot. That is amazing. We have something that can go in there. We don't have to do a fully integrated, robust, several $100,000 automation system anymore. We can take that and we can do this with it. This is what every homeowner needs and every homeowner wants. We would like to make this something that looks standard in every home. Builders are intelligent. It's amazing when I have conversations how much they know. Sometimes it catches me off guard, I'll say that. But they're doing a good job of doing market research. We're educating them, we're bringing them along in this journey together. We're working in synergies together to make sure that they're delivering into the new homes all of this technology. They're looking for it, they're asking for it. They get it.
So we have somebody who runs the builder side of our business, loves it. That's his thing. I keep asking him every 5 years or so, like, hey, this is still what you want? Yeah. On the builder side, even the ones who like us, it's hard to get them to pick up the phone. They're so busy all the time, right? And so I guess our approach is no pain, no gain. So if we find something that we want to sort of implement, we really need to orient the conversation around a pain point they're having. So your example about a USB outlet or something, for us, has to be contextualized in like, if you do this, it will improve your customer experience or your profitability, or, you know, we have to just put it in terms that really, for them, they can really go, okay, yeah, this is going to help Band-Aid a gushing wound. But if we ever just go at it from like, hey, here's this new shiny thing, like they could care less. And so really for us, it's pain around, and in recent years, it's been pain around Wi-Fi. You know, and you know, you talk about companies doing a great job of marketing for us. The term wall-to-wall Wi-Fi, I think, came out of the Lennar Amazon deal, right? So what do? What do we have in our market? Wall-to-wall Wi-Fi. I mean, that's a huge appeal. So and I think it ranks higher than plumbing and electricity in terms of importance for the consumer. So that's kind of how we go at it. We find something that we think would be good, but we totally have to orient the conversation around a really acute, gushing pain point for the builder.
Great, thank you. Speaking of which, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I know I got the 1 minute mark in terms of our time is up. It actually went much faster than I thought it was. This was great time spent with our panelists. I want to thank everyone here, Henry, Mitch, Michelle, Mike, Michelle, for joining us today, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, best practices, etc. I want to open up to each of you. Any closing remarks or closing thoughts before we walk away from the stage today?
So it's Friday, and we're talking about RMR, which is like my favorite subject on the planet. I'm at CEDIA. I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me, and it's always such great energy here at the show.
Yeah, it's been very nice to have a chance to speak with you guys about the subject, and you know, I'm very excited about what we're doing in the market, and hopefully we'll continue to grow. That's what I see. So thank you.
Same with me. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time. I'll be in booth 21017 Nice if you guys want to talk. We have a lot of new products out, and we'd be excited to chat with you about it. And just the one takeaway I have is I feel like the most I've learned is by talking to my competitors even, right? Like just networking, best practices. There's so much you can get from your teammates. So definitely reach out to this guy. He'll help you out.
So thanks to ADI for hosting this. I appreciate that, and my fellow panelists, and ultimately you and the chairs out there. And a great gratitude to you for taking the time and the interest in this. This shows that you're serious about it. And the thing I would ultimately leave you with is, don't be afraid and get educated. And you've started that today. So thank you very much.
Thank y'all for coming. Shameless plug, I'll be on the innovation stage moderating a panel about choosing the right camera and microphone for work from home. But more importantly, that's around 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock, the bar opens at the ADI booth. So come by and break bread and have a drink with us.
Yeah, yes indeed. Please swing by and see us for booth 12023. As Michelle mentioned, we have happy hour, libations being served at 3 o'clock, so stop by. Visit us. We're happy to walk you through our line card. We can actually, you know, David Walker's in the back corner, who runs our services platform and capture monitoring. He'll be there. I'm sure he'd love to share his thoughts and technologies with everyone in this space as well. And again, thank you for taking the time out of the show. We appreciate it, and thank you to my panelists especially. It really was a fun time spending with you all today, and enjoy the rest of the show as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.